While many games have a linear story arc that plays out just once, we wanted to create a blockbuster, streamable moment every single week. Something very similar to the collapse of a Fortnite map at the end of the season, or even the end of the world that occurred routinely in our childhood favorite Zelda title, Majora's Mask. So, we came up with a novel world-wide mechanic that is triggered by the collective decisions of players. Now, let's take a quick step back to explain how the game of Chrono Forge works. In Chrono Forge, every player is funneled into one of 8 different trading companies. This is your upgradable home base where you do all of your crafting. Upgrading the trading company and voting to activate the top tier trading company's Chrono Forge is how you get the best gear and access endgame content to move up the competitive ladder. Now, here is the interesting part. If too many trading companies activate the Chrono Forge in any given week, the rift energy from these forges literally, quite literally, tears the planet apart and causes a global wipe, which means one thing: everyone loses. We are throwing a fundamentally new type of progression arc at players. Unlike self-centered traditional RPGs that blindly drive the player towards the pursuit of power, in our game, if everyone tries to win, we all lose. As one of our main characters says, we can't have it all. So, what is this destructive rift energy? Well, at the center of our planet Terra are large amounts of a mineral known as Chronos, which produces its own rift energy and amplified gravitational pull when it becomes superheated. A bit like how Earth's molten iron amplifies its magnetic field. Very similar. Now, when players create their own Chrono Forges in their flying trading companies, they do so by extracting Chronos from the planet and superheating it in the sky. These new centers of rift energy have their own gravitational pulls that conflict with that at the core of Terra and gradually tear the planet apart. It's kind of like if we were to grab each one of your limbs and run in different directions. It's a disaster. In telling this story, we wanted to make sure that just like in the real world, there are some warning signs of the impending environmental cataclysm. Games like Majora's Mask did this explicitly with a timer, and through the combination of the changes in music, the changes in lighting, and an ominous moon encroaching closer and closer to the planet. In Chrono Forge, we're combining these very same techniques in the minutes leading up to the wipe to build tension and speculation. First up on the player HUD, we have a rift meter at all times showing the global atmospheric levels of rift energy, which operates very similarly to, think of it as greenhouse gas levels, if you will. As we get to dangerous levels of rift energy, we also wanted real-time visual effects in regular gameplay that would begin to encroach on the player experience. These start with the small cracks of light that appear in the ground below. The sky and the music also changes to a slightly darker tone, very ominous. And in this, we want players to naturally come across these signs without bravado, right? Much like the signs of climate collapse in the real world are often subtle and debatable until it's too late. In the minutes before an actual planetary fracture, these small cracks grow into gaping chasms and a rift energy storm begins to brew unmistakably in the center of the map. You cannot miss this storm. The real-time effects in the playable space culminate in a short cinematic sequence. Cinematic production starts with a rough storyboard sequence, through to a 3D blockout, and finally, a fully rendered output complete with Hollywood fireworks. Every shot is carefully composed for maximum dramatic effect. The skies have turned truly dark, the music's louder, and really begins to impose itself over other sounds from the player's perspective. We wanted to make sure that these visual effects were also big enough to be visible from all parts of the Great Isle. Now, in addition to the wipe, trading companies also have the opportunity to eliminate each other, perhaps for noble reasons, right? Like preventing more Chrono Forges from being activated, or selfishly defending their rank on the competition ladder. As part of the wipe sequence, we wanted to show the futility of conflict, trading companies continuing to battle it out, almost oblivious to the world collapsing around them. Again, This is meant as an analogy to the real world, where we too often see huge investment in global military buildups, ignoring the more substantial long-term threat of climate collapse. You'll notice the whole playable map of Terra, known as the Great Isle, sits within a large crater called the Crater of Life. There is also a significant chasm in the center of the map, near where the player begins their journey. This chasm is the location of the center of our rift storm during a wipe, and the crater is there to indicate that such wipes have occurred previously when former civilizations have dabbled with Chronos. You'll encounter at least 2 of these ancient civilizations in your time traveling journeys through the game and learn more about the corruptive influence of Chronos.